The door slammed shut behind him, trapping him in the cold, dim cell. The human blinked in the greenish light, trying to adjust. He had been captured for a crime he didn't commit again. It was supposed to be a peaceful visit to the planet. Zarkala, just a quick cargo drop, but now he was here, locked inside a prison made of alien steel, and he wasn't alone. In the corner stood a tall figure, half in shadow. Her skin had a soft glow, like moonlight underwater. Her arms were crossed. Her silver eyes locked onto him without blinking. She didn't speak, didn't move, just stared. The human raised a hand slowly, trying not to look weak. Hi, he said, voice dry. I guess we're roommates now. She said nothing. Just narrowed her eyes a little. Her muscles were tense, like a coiled spring ready to strike. He sat on the metal bench far from her, trying not to look nervous. The silence stretched between them, heavy and sharp. A low alarm sounded from outside, but neither of them moved. The human decided to break the silence again. I'm not a criminal, he said. They grabbed me by mistake. Still no reply. She finally turned her head away and muttered something in a strange language. The human thought he heard the word soft skin. He wasn't sure if it was an insult or a joke. He sighed and leaned against the wall. Great, he whispered. Just my luck. Hours passed, or maybe just minutes. It was hard to tell in the cell. The lights flickered once, then again. The woman in the corner tensed, her hand drifting toward her boot. The human noticed it too. Something was wrong. Suddenly, the light shut off completely, and the sound of shouting echoed through the walls. Screams, metal crashing, then silence. Total silence. A loud boom shook the floor, dust falling from the ceiling. The human stood up fast, eyes wide. What the hell is going on? He said. A soft voice answered. Stay close. It was her. The alien woman had spoken. He turned to see her pulling something from her boot, a hidden blade that shimmered with light. My name is Zarin, she said quickly. Do exactly what I say, or we both die. The door to their cell creaked open on its own. Zarin peeked out, then waved him forward. The hallway was full of bodies guards. Prisoners, all down. Some looked crushed, others torn. The human wanted to throw up, but Zarin pushed him forward. No time for weakness, she whispered. Something's hunting in the dark. They moved through the corridors, her leading and him trying to keep up. He was surprised by how silent she was, like a shadow. Every step she took was careful, precise. She clearly knew how to survive. She was more than just a prisoner. They reached the locked door, and Zarin pulled wires from the wall. Working fast, the human kept watch, heart pounding, from far down the hall. A deep growl echoed, something metal scraping along the walls. It was coming closer. Zarin opened the door just in time, pulling him through and locking it behind them. Inside was a dark storage room with crates and glowing tubes. They caught their breath, listening to the sound of whatever it was move past the door. That's not a prisoner, he said, whispering. That's something else, Zarin nodded. A hunter drone, she said. Or worse. She finally turned to him properly, her face closed. You still haven't told me your name, she said. He blinked, surprised. It's Ray, he answered. Ray Carter. She stared at him, then smirked slightly. You don't look like a fighter, she said. I'm not, he replied. But I don't like dying either. She gave a quiet laugh. It was the first human sound she had made. It didn't last long, though. The lights above them blinked again, and the floor trembled. We can't stay here, she said, standing tall. You're coming with me, Ray hesitated. Why help me? Zarin looked at him for a moment, then said, because I don't work well alone, and because whatever's out there doesn't care what species we are. With that, she opened a second hatch behind a crate. It led into a narrow maintenance tunnel, dark and quiet. Ray took one last look at the room, then followed her into the shadows behind them. The echo of footsteps, heavy and slow, grew louder. Their escape had just begun. The tunnel was narrow and smelled like burnt metal. Ray crawled behind Zarin, the alien mercenary. trying not to breathe too loudly. The walls were hot, the air thick, and every few feet a wire sparked above their heads. Zarin moved fast, her body twisting with skill through the tight space. Ray's hands were scraped, his knees bruised, but he kept going. He didn't want to be left behind, not with that thing still hunting them. Suddenly Zarin stopped, raising her hand. Ray froze, trying not to make a sound. She turned her head slowly, her silver eyes glowing faintly. "Something's above us," she whispered, voice low like a warning. Ray looked up, heart thudding. The ceiling creaked softly, as if something large was crawling just overhead. He could hear it now, scraping claws, slow breaths, the faint hum of energy. They both stayed still for almost a full minute. Then, as if satisfied, the sound moved away. Zarin exhaled slowly, her body relaxing a little. She turned back to him, her face serious. "You really don't know what's going on, do you?" she asked. Ray shook his head. "I was just delivering cargo," he whispered. "Then I woke up in that prison." Zarin tilted her head slightly, as if studying him. "There are no random arrests on Zarkala," she said. "You were put there on purpose." Ray's throat went dry. "Why me?" "I don't know," she answered. "But someone wanted you close to me." That thought didn't comfort him, not one bit. They kept moving, deeper into the tunnels. Eventually they reached a vent covered in glowing moss. Zarin pushed it open slowly and peeked through. "Clear," she whispered, then crawled out. Ray followed, brushing green dust from his clothes as he stood. They were inside what looked like a control chamber, machines blinking, screens flashing symbols he couldn't read. Zarin walked straight to one of the terminals, her fingers flying over the controls. Ray stood guard by the door, still shaken from what they had escaped. After a few seconds, Zarin growled softly, frustrated. "This system's locked. Someone erased my command codes. You worked here?" Ray asked, surprised. She nodded. "Before I was marked as a traitor." Ray blinked. "Why would they mark you as that?" She looked away, her voice cold now. "Because I refused to follow an order," she said. "An order to destroy a civilian outpost." Ray stared at her, speechless. She glanced at him and smirked again, surprised. He shook his head. "No. Just trying to keep up." The screen behind her suddenly flashed red, and a warning tone buzzed. "Security forces incoming," she said quickly, grabbing a small weapon from the wall. Ray grabbed a metal rod. Not much, but better than nothing. Zarin moved to the side of the door, pressing herself against the wall. Ray took the other side. Heart pounding, the door hissed open, and for a moment, there was silence. Then a drone floated in, round, metal, and armed with small plasma cannons. It scanned the room slowly, not seeing them yet. Zarin looked at Ray and nodded once. He threw a metal can across the room, making it clang loudly. The drone turned fast and Zarin pounced. Her blade cut through the drone in a single smooth arc. It sparked and dropped to the ground, lifeless. Ray stared in awe. "Okay, that was amazing." She rolled her eyes. "You're loud, human. Don't flatter me now." Suddenly her legs wobbled, and she collapsed to one knee. Ray rushed to her side. "What happened?" "My armor's failing," she said, gritting her teeth. "It's overheating, burning my skin." Without warning, she reached behind her back and began pulling at the armor clasps. Steam hissed out, her hands shaking as she tried to remove it. Ray turned his head quickly. "Do you need help?" She growled, cheeks flushed. "No peeking, human. I wasn't," he said, eyes shut tight. "I'm just trying to help." There was silence for a moment, only the soft sound of metal falling to the floor. Then she spoke softly. "I need cooling gel." "In the pack." Ray nodded quickly, feeling around for a small glowing tube. He found it and handed it over. Eyes still turned away, she took it, breathing heavily as she applied the gel to her burned skin. After a while, she said in a quieter voice, "You didn't peek." Ray smiled nervously. "Told you I wouldn't." She stood up, now only wearing the lower part of her armor and a thin gray layer under it. Her face was red, but she didn't look angry. Most mercenaries would have. "Tried something," she said. Ray shrugged. "I'm not like most people." She looked at him for a long time, then turned away. "Let's keep moving," she said, "before something worse finds us." As they stepped back into the tunnel, Ray couldn't help but wonder what kind of war she had been part of, and what exactly he had gotten himself into. Ray had trouble sleeping, even though they were hidden deep in a storage chamber filled with old supplies. Zarin sat near the wall, one arm across her knees, the other holding her weapon close. She hadn't spoken much since she removed part of her armor. The fire they made was small and quiet, the light flickering over the metal walls. Ray glanced at her, wondering if she was really okay. Her expression was distant, like her thoughts were a million stars away. He cleared his throat. "That drone. You said it was hunting you." She didn't look at him, just gave a short nod. "Why?" he asked, his voice soft. "Why are they after you?" Zarin's jaw tightened, her fingers curling around the handle of her blade. "They called me a traitor," she said finally, "but I didn't betray anyone." Ray waited for her to continue, not wanting to push too hard. Zarin leaned her head back against the wall and let out a breath. "I was sent to destroy a research base on a moon near the human border," she said. "It was labeled as a threat. But when I arrived, there were just family scientists, kids, no soldiers, no weapons." Ray stared at her, eyes wide. "So you refused?" She nodded slowly. "I reported back, told them I wouldn't carry out the order. The next day, they sent someone else to finish the job and declared me a criminal." Ray felt something heavy settle in his chest. "You tried to do the right thing," he said, "and they punished you for it." Zarin gave a bitter smile. "That's how the galaxy works sometimes." Ray looked down at his hands, remembering how he ended up here. "My ship was stopped by patrols," he said. "They claimed I was smuggling forbidden tech, but I had nothing illegal. I think someone wanted me here on purpose." Zarin's eyes sharpened. "That's not a coincidence." She reached into a pouch on her waist and pulled out a small flat device. "Earlier," she said, "when I checked the terminal, I found this." She tapped the device, and a tiny hologram appeared, showing two names, hers and his, side by side, both labeled with the same word. "Asset." Ray leaned closer, shocked. "They linked us." Zarin nodded. "Which means someone out there planned for us to meet." "Maybe they want us to die together," Ray muttered. "Or maybe we're part of something bigger," she said, her voice thoughtful. Just then, a loud crack echoed from above, followed by a soft thud. They both jumped to their feet, weapons ready. Something or someone had landed on the roof of the chamber. Zarin grabbed a nearby crate and flipped it over, revealing a hidden hatch. "Go," she said, motioning to Ray. "Now." He climbed down the ladder fast, Zarin following after sealing the crate behind them. The new tunnel was tighter, darker, and colder. Ray could barely see, but Zarin moved ahead like she had memorized every step. "I know this area," she said. "This was once my training ground." Ray stayed close, whispering, "Do you think whoever's hunting us knows these tunnels too?" Zarin didn't answer right away. Then she said, "They trained with me." "So yes," Ray swallowed hard. "So they're not just soldiers. They're like you." "Better," she whispered. "Faster, crueler, and fully loyal." The tunnel opened into a dark control room filled with dust and cobwebs. Zarin moved to the main console and wiped the screen clean. She powered it on, and strange alien code filled the screen. "What is this place?" Ray asked, looking around. Zarin didn't answer right away, her fingers typing fast. Then she said, "This is where I was created." Ray's eyes widened. "Created?" She turned to him, her face unreadable. "Not born. I was engineered part of a super mercenary program. My body is enhanced, my senses sharpened, my loyalty." "Well, it didn't last." Ray was silent, unsure what to say. "I escaped once before," she said, "but they keep tracking me. And now they've marked you too." The console beeped suddenly, and Zarene's eyes widened. "There's a transport station nearby," she said. "We might be able to escape, but the route is guarded." Ray stood straighter. "Then we fight." She looked at him, surprised, then gave a small nod. "You're not trained," she said. "I'm stubborn," he replied. "That counts for something." She smirked, a rare softness in her eyes. "It might," she said, "but if we do this, you follow my orders." Ray nodded. "Deal." The lights above flickered again, and the sound of footsteps returned, this time heavier, closer. "They found us," Zarin said, gripping her blade. Ray grabbed a nearby pipe and braced himself, for the first time. They were no longer running. They were going to stand and fight. The room smelled of smoke and blood. Metal sparks floated through the air like fireflies. Ray wiped sweat from his forehead with the back of his arm, his chest rising fast. Zarin stood next to him, her blade glowing faintly, her skin marked with small burns. They had fought off 3 drones barely. Ray had hit one with a broken pipe. Zarin took down the rest. Now the room was quiet again, but the silence felt heavier than before. They sat near the wall, breathing hard. Zarin leaned back and let her head rest against a crate, her eyes closing for a moment. Ray looked at her, not sure what to say. He finally broke the silence. "You okay?" She gave a weak nod. "Just tired." He pulled out a small food ration from his bag and handed it to her. "Not human food," she said, without opening her eyes. "Too sweet." He smiled and broke it in half. "Then you'll love this." She opened one eye, then took the piece, sniffed it, and tasted it slowly. Her eyes widened, and she coughed lightly. Ray laughed. "Told you." She gave him a small smile, then leaned her head on the wall again. For a while they didn't talk, just listened to the quiet humming of damaged wires above. Then she spoke, her voice low. "I don't remember the last time I sat like this, with someone." Ray turned to her. "What do you mean?" "I was trained to work alone," she said. "Even when I had teammates, it never felt like this." He nodded. "Sometimes it's not the fight that breaks you, it's the loneliness." She looked at him, studying his face as if she didn't expect those words. "You've been through things too," she said, more as a fact than a question. He gave a slow nod. "War took a lot from me, even when I wasn't a soldier." Zarin lowered her gaze, as if thinking deeply. Outside the room, something shifted, but it didn't come closer. Ray pulled his jacket tighter and scooted closer to the small heating unit. Zarin moved next to him without saying a word, close enough that their shoulders touched. Her body was warm, and though her armor was mostly off now, the thin layer she wore still carried this scent of burned circuits and something strangely sweet. He didn't move away, and neither did she. The fire made her silver eyes glow softly, like moonlight over water. After a moment, she turned her face toward him and spoke in a quiet voice. "There's something inside me." Ray's breath caught slightly. "What do you mean?" She pulled back one sleeve to reveal her forearm, where the skin opened slightly with a hiss, revealing a small glowing cube. Ray leaned in, eyes wide. "This is not tech from my world," she said. "Someone placed it in me during a mission. They didn't tell me, didn't ask. What does it do?" He asked. "I don't know," she said, "but others are willing to kill for it." Ray stared at the glowing cube, its light slowly pulsing like a heartbeat. "Maybe that's why they wanted me close to you," he said. "Maybe they thought I could get it out." Zarin gave him a dry laugh. "If that was their plan, they picked the wrong man." Ray chuckled. "Yeah, I can barely fix my own ship." They laughed softly, and the tension between them melted just a little. Zarin looked at the cube again, then carefully closed the panel on her arm. "It's part of me now," she said, "and I don't know what will happen if it's removed." Ray met her eyes and said gently, "Then we protect it together." She blinked, not expecting that. "You're strange, human," she whispered. "Most would have tried to cut it out by now." "I don't hurt people who trust me," he said. "And you trust me now, don't you?" Zarin didn't answer right away, but her eyes softened and she gave a small nod. She leaned her head on his shoulder without a word. Ray didn't move, just sat still as her warmth spread through his side. For a moment, there was peace in the room, even with danger still outside. Then the lights flickered twice, followed by a low mechanical hum. Zarin sat up fast, eyes sharp again. "They're moving toward the transport station," she said. "If we want to escape, we have to go now." Ray stood, grabbing what little gear they had, as they prepared to leave. Zarin looked at him one more time. "If I don't make it," she said softly, "don't let them take it." Ray looked at her firmly. "We're both getting out. Don't say goodbye yet." She smiled again, but this time it was real. And for the first time since they met, she believed him. The morning sky was red, not from the sunrise, but from smoke. Ray and Zarin moved through the burned forest, silent as shadows. Every step was careful, every breath slow. They didn't speak, but their eyes kept scanning the trees. Zarin gripped her broken blade tight in one hand, her other arm clutched against her side. Ray stayed close behind her, watching her back. They were getting closer to the old transport station, their only way off the planet. But the deeper they went, the more things felt wrong. Zarin stopped suddenly and raised a hand. Ray froze, his heart pounding. She crouched low and pointed to the ground. 3 perfect boot prints, fresh, deep, and not theirs. Ray whispered, "They're ahead of us." Zarin gave a single nod, her face tense. Then a soft mechanical buzz floated through the air. A red light blinked in the distance, followed by another and another. Drones. But these were bigger, faster. "And hunting," Zarin whispered quickly. "Split up. We'll circle around and meet by the fuel tanks." Before Ray could answer, she was already gone, vanishing into the trees. He wanted to shout after her, but he knew better. He took the opposite path, ducking under fallen branches and burned leaves. His hands shook slightly as he gripped the handle of a rusty tool. His only weapon now. He hated being apart from her, especially now, but she was trained for this. She moved like the wind, and still something didn't feel right. The station came into view, tall and half-broken, its tower leaning like a dying tree. Ray crouched behind a wall of scrap metal, peeking through a hole. 2 armored figures stood near the entrance, scanning the area. One of them spoke in a deep voice. "She has to be close. The signal is stronger here." The other replied, "When we find her, shoot the human too. No witnesses." Ray's blood ran cold. Then something moved behind them, fast and quiet. Zarin dropped from above like a shadow and slammed her elbow into the first guard's neck. The second turned, but Ray was already charging. He hit the soldier with the metal pipe, knocking the blaster from his hand. Zarin kicked him hard, sending him to the ground. They didn't kill the men, just knocked them out. Ray stared at her, breathless. "You okay?" she asked, wiping blood from her cheek. "Yeah," he said. "Nice entrance." She smirked. "Told you I work alone." But maybe not anymore. They stepped into the station. The inside quiet but full of blinking lights and broken machines. Zarin walked over to a control panel and started typing fast. Ray stood by the door, watching for any sign of movement. Then a low beep echoed across the room. Zarin's eyes widened. "It's a trap." Ray turned just in time to see the ceiling hatch open. 3 drones dropped down, their red eyes glowing bright. "Move!" Zarin shouted, grabbing Ray and pulling him behind cover. Blaster fire lit the room. Sparks flew, glass shattered. Ray held his breath as Zarin rolled out, sliced through a drone's leg, and dodged back behind the wall. "I can't take them all," she said, panting. Ray nodded. "Then I will." She grabbed his wrist, eyes wide. "No, you're not trained." "I'm not helpless," he said. He ran forward, grabbing the fallen drone's blaster, and shot at the others, hitting one in the head. The blast knocked him backward, but the drone exploded. Zarin jumped up and finished the last one. Blade flashing bright, smoke filled the room, and everything went silent again. She ran to Ray, grabbing his shoulders. "You're crazy," she said. He laughed weakly. So are you. Their eyes met, and for a moment, nothing else mattered. Then a new sound came, a soft hum. Deep and rising, Zarene's hand flew to her chest, where the cube glowed brighter than ever before. It's reacting, she whispered. Ray looked at the cube. Then at the control panel. It's drawing energy from the station, he said. The room trembled, a pulse of light filled the space. Zareen fell to her knees, breathing fast. Ray dropped beside her. What's happening? Her voice shook. I don't know. But something is waking up. The cube flickered faster, like a heart ready to explode. Ray held her hand tightly. We're not going anywhere without each other, he said. She looked at him with wide, frightened eyes. I hope you're right, human, because this was no longer just about escape. This was something ancient, something buried, and now it had chosen her. The floor shook as if something deep under the planet had awakened. Zareen held her chest, her fingers trembling, over the cube that now burned hot under her skin. Ray stayed close, his eyes darting around the dark control room. The lights on the wall panels began turning blue, one by one, like they recognized her presence. This station isn't just a transport hub, she whispered. It's ancient. Tech, same as the cube. Ray helped her stand, but she could barely keep her balance. Her body looked different. Now lines of blue light ran along her arms and neck, glowing softly. He had never seen her look so powerful, or so afraid. From the ceiling, a voice echoed through broken speakers. Language unknown, metallic and deep. Zareen tilted her head slightly, her eyes distant. It's speaking to me, she said. I understand it. Ray stepped back. What's it saying? She looked at him slowly, the glow in her eyes growing stronger. It's calling me. Keybearer. Suddenly the station's large back wall began to slide open. Behind it, a long corridor lit by strange blue lines stretched into darkness. Without thinking, Zareen walked toward it, drawn like a moth to fire. Ray followed close, unsure if this was a dream or something worse. As they stepped inside, the doors sealed behind them. Ahead, at the end of the corridor, was a circular chamber with a floating device in the center. The cube inside her chest began to pulse harder, and the floating object answered it. Ray stared at it, amazed. It looked like a star made of glass, spinning slowly in the air. Zareen stepped forward, raising her hand. The cube inside her chest rose through her skin, floating outward into the air. No, Ray said, reaching for her, but she didn't stop, her voice calm and distant. It's okay, she said. This is what I was meant to do. The cube floated into the star-shaped device, and suddenly everything changed. The ground shook violently, the lights turned gold, and ancient machines rose from the floor and ceiling. Zareen dropped to her knees, gasping for breath. Ray caught her, shouting her name. She looked up at him with tears in her glowing eyes. I feel everything, she said. Memories, knowledge, pain, from 1,000 years. Then a massive screen appeared, showing a star map, flashing in red. Zareen pointed weakly. They're coming. Ray squinted at the screen. Who? She looked at him, her voice cold now. The ones who made me. And others like me. The door behind them exploded without warning. 4 armored enemies rushed in, weapons raised. Ray jumped in front of Zareen without thinking. Blaster fire screamed across the room. He ducked, rolled, and grabbed a fallen enemy's rifle. Zareen raised her hand weakly, and the machines in the room began to move. As if answering her call, panels shot out from the walls. Blocking the attackers, Ray fired, hitting one soldier in the leg. Zareen stood up slowly, her hair rising like it floated underwater. She raised her arms, and the glowing machines flew toward the enemies. Screams filled the chamber as metal and light tore through them like lightning. When it was over, the room was silent again. Ray stood over the fallen bodies, his chest heaving. Zareen lowered her arms, the glow around her fading slightly. He rushed to her side, catching her before she collapsed. You did it, he said. You're amazing. She looked up at him with a tired smile. I'm not done yet, she said. But I don't have to do it alone now. They walked back to the star device, the cube now floating calmly inside it. Ray touched her shoulder. What now? Zarin took a deep breath. Now we make a choice. He raised an eyebrow. What kind of choice? Her voice was soft but clear. I can use the power here to destroy the people chasing me. But? He asked, but it might destroy. Me too. Ray stepped in front of her, eyes full of fire. Then we find another way, he said. There's always another way. Zarin stared at him for a long time, then nodded slowly. Okay. She whispered, we fight together. As the chamber doors locked again, sealing them in, Zarin walked to the center console and pressed her hand against it. The entire room came to life, and above them, a message appeared in glowing letters. One word awakened. Ray and Zarin stood together, side by side. No longer just human and alien, no longer strangers, but something more, something dangerous, something united. Smoke curled from the edges of the ancient star map as alarms echoed in the walls. Zarin stood in front of the glowing console, her chest rising fast, her eyes bright with light. Ray stood beside her, gripping a stolen blaster, his knuckles white from holding it too tight. On the screen above them, red dots moved closer, hundreds of ships forming a circle around the planet. They're here, Zarin said, her voice steady but quiet. Ray looked at her. Then we make our stand. The chamber trembled as the systems awakened fully. Doors sealed. Energy flowed through the walls like living veins. But it wasn't just the station that had changed. Zarin had too. Her hair moved on its own, touched by energy. Her skin shimmered where blue circuits pulsed just beneath the surface. Ray could barely believe she was the same woman who once threatened to cut his throat. She turned toward him slowly and held out her hand. I need to link with the station, she said. It chose me as the key. Ray nodded, already stepping forward. And I'll protect you while you do. She smiled at that, not a warrior's smile, but something warmer, something real. She stepped into the center of the star-shaped platform. The cube that once hid inside her now floated above her palms. When she raised her arms, beams of light shot into the air, filling the room with gold and white fire. Ray turned and pointed his blaster at the main door. He knew what came next, and he wasn't going to let anything touch her. The enemy breached the outer walls, shouting in static-filled voices. They stormed down the corridors with heavy boots and glowing weapons. Ray fired the moment they appeared. His shots clean, his stance unshaken. Beside him, strange machines rose from the floor and joined the fight, moving like they had minds of their own. Zarin's voice echoed through the chamber, not shouting, not screaming, but singing, a deep, alien song that made the walls hum in rhythm. She wasn't just linking to the station, she was becoming part of it. Ray heard her voice inside his head, soft and full of peace. You don't have to fight alone, she whispered. Then the walls lit up with symbols and shields, waves of energy shielding them from harm. The enemy tried to push through, but the station fought back harder. Ray kept firing, and the machines beside him fired too. He didn't feel tired, not anymore. He felt alive, but just as victory seemed close, Zarin cried out. The cube inside the star device burned brighter than ever, pulsing faster. Her knees buckled. Her hands trembled. Ray ran to her side, catching her before she collapsed completely. It's too much, she whispered. It's draining me. Ray looked at the cube, then back at her. There has to be another way, he said. She shook her head slowly. If I stop now, the shield drops and they kill us all. Ray's heart pounded as he stared at the glowing device. Then something inside him clicked, an old memory, a phrase his father once said. When two people carry the weight, it becomes lighter. He looked down at her, eyes burning with sudden purpose. Then let me carry it with you. Without waiting, he stepped into the beam, placing his hand beside hers. At once, light shot up around him, and the cube glowed even stronger. He felt it touch his mind, cold, bright, ancient. But then he felt her beside him, guiding him, soft and sure. They stood together in the light, human and alien, connected by something deeper than blood, and then the station answered them. A massive surge of power exploded outward from the walls. All enemy ships in orbit blinked out like dying stars. Their weapons shut down. Their engines failed on the ground. The soldiers dropped their arms and fled. Ray opened his eyes slowly, the light fading. Zarin stood beside him, no longer shaking. Her body shimmered with soft gold lines now, like she was part of the station itself. It listened to us, she said, her voice calm. No, it listened to you, Ray replied. I just followed your lead. She turned to him, eyes wide and full of something he hadn't seen before. Not fear, not power, love. Without a word, she stepped closer and wrapped her arms around him. He didn't hesitate. He held her tightly. For once, the galaxy didn't seem so big, and neither of them felt alone anymore. When they finally stepped out of the chamber, the skies were clear, the station quiet, the warships gone. Zarin looked at him with a teasing smile. You peeked into my soul, human, he smiled back. You let me. She blushed, then whispered in his ear, but next time. Still, no peeking, and with that, they walked forward, not as soldier and mercenary, but as something more. A bond made of fire, war, and trust. Something the stars themselves would remember.